This is the Brave New Coin Crypto Conversation, hosted by Andy Pickering.
Hi everyone, Andy Pickering here. I'm your host and welcome to the Crypto Conversation, a Brave New Coin podcast where we talk to the people building the future in the Bitcoin, blockchain and cryptocurrency space. My guest today is Fran Strajnar. Fran is the founder and CEO here at Brave New Coin. Hello, Fran.
Hey, Andy. It's great to be here.
Now, Fran is here to talk about BNC Pro, a new best-in-class cryptocurrency portfolio management platform. We're going to talk about the platform and we're going to talk about the BNC token. So when you use BNC Pro, it's the BNC token that unlocks the platform's premium features and full suite of Brave New Coin's institutional-grade data research and analysis tools. Plus, we'll talk about the BNC IEO, the initial exchange offering, which has been conducted by the Japanese exchange Liquid, which you'll find at liquid.com. Plus, later in the show, we're going to talk about science fiction, sci-fi, Star Trek, and more. Fran is a big sci-fi guy, so I'm really looking forward to that one. For any of this to make sense, we need to understand a little bit more about what Brave New Coin is, what Brave New Coin does, why Brave New Coin builds the products that it builds, and what we think they'll be used for. Let's get into it. Fran, what is Brave New Coin?
Brave New Coin is very similar to Thomson Reuters Icon or Bloomberg. It is all of business service house where you can get your buy-side and sell-side information about this exciting new asset class. So we focus on price discovery and indices. This all started when we realized this is a new asset class, and it's inevitable that we're going to see a wave of derivatives. So we focused on price discovery in the early days to create, the Bitcoin Liquid Index, the Ethereum Liquid Index, and very shortly we'll be announcing some very exciting basket indices which have been signed with major exchanges to be tradable. So users will be able to essentially long and short a subclass of the sector with new instruments where our indices are powered. So we produce regular content where we focus on quality, not quantity. We don't do breaking news. We do in-depth research, deep technical analysis, turning data into insights. So everything we've done is data-driven. We're a third generation of our technology after 6 years, and all of that is now slowly being turned into insights available for everyone via the BNC Pro platform.
Yes, Fran. And look, there's a really simple way to demonstrate this, and I'm going to do that right now. Alexa, what is the price of Bitcoin?
One Bitcoin is worth $8,296 up 2.8% over the last 24 hours.
Thank you, Alexa. Fran, can you explain what's happening there? How does Alexa know what the price of Bitcoin is?
Sure. So over the years, we've integrated with a huge range of market data distributors. Amazon Alexa is just one integrated solution to bring data through to anybody that uses Alexa products. So just like a central bank can get, end of day price for Bitcoin or hundreds of different currencies via their existing market data distributors, like, say, the NASDAQ. We've also made this type of information available to everyday consumers with a partnership with Alexa.
Fantastic. You're one of these people, Fran, who has been smart enough to sniff out the winds of change and position yourself to meet the demands of a future world that really is only just beginning to come out of an emergent stage. But suddenly now here we are, we're knocking on the door of a very futuristic sounding 2020. And there's this struggle emerging around who controls money at a time when both individuals, corporations, and governments can compete with each other to create these new digital currencies. And so it really is an unprecedented moment in history. The battle lines are being drawn between the people's champ, Bitcoin, the original decentralized cryptocurrency, corporate coins, Facebook, Libra being the best example, and of course, a wave of central bank digital currencies, which may well be just around the corner. Just this week, US lawmakers are asking the Fed Where are the plans for the US digital currency? Fran, it's a brave new world. Can you put this into context?
Yeah, look, I mean, if we move to a 40,000-foot view, the super macro, the world is going through a radical change in general without cryptocurrencies. We're seeing the breakdown of the unipolar framework, the Western hegemony backed by the reserve currency of the world, the US dollar. And we're moving to a more multipolar framework that is supposed to be a little bit more inclusive. And that's driven largely out of the Belt and Road Initiative and, what China, Russia, and the developing BRICS nations are doing. So this has given birth to proxy wars and rampant currency wars. It is essentially a battle between the status quo of that existing framework and world order and a new emerging multipolar order. Cryptocurrencies, with the advent of decentralized ledgers, blockchain technology, are essentially birthed at the absolute right time. They represent a new technologically driven option that has now matured to a point where it simply cannot be ignored. So, the old saying of first they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. It is not entirely surprising to see Libra and a whole range of state-sponsored stable coins being proposed. So we've known for quite some time that the People's Bank of China has been looking at how to create a digital yuan. The Treasury out of the UK and many other nations has been experimenting and putting academics onto understanding the benefits of essentially tokenizing fiat currencies. I would argue that they're not actually cryptocurrencies. Right. What we're seeing is the greatest experimentation in monetary policy the world has ever seen. It started with Bitcoin, which was supposed to represent a currency. The killer application to date is digital gold. And then we've seen a magnitude of different assets come to market with faster block time and more transactions, and they all have their individual features and benefits. And now we've got this generation of assets that is essentially issued on top of an existing blockchain, say Ethereum smart contracts. And the monetary policies behind those assets or those stable coins is very traditional. They include fractional reserve practices, the potential for quantitative easing, and all sorts of legacy shenanigans. So there's this technology being used in a way that's just reimagining and reinventing the same redundant idiocracy that the world is in hot water for at the moment anyway. So that's a bit concerning. Crypto's natural habitat on a long enough timeline is a competing currency, a stateless, intranational, global currency. Whether or not it's included in basket currencies like the IMF's special drawing right, or if entire countries choose to peg Bitcoin because it's more stable than their national currencies, all of that is yet to be seen. But the asset class isn't going away. We're going to digitize every type of value imaginable, good instruments as well as bad instruments that represent qualitative risk. And so, one could describe the future as a battle between decentralized, unstoppable machines versus centralized solutions that essentially just use this technology for maintaining the status quo.
Wow, I like that, Fran. It is exciting. To me, it feels like the world is slowly going exponential. I talked about this with Mark Yusko in the last podcast. We talked about Ray Kurzweil's idea about the law of accelerating returns, according to which the rate of change across a wide variety of evolutionary systems, from computer chip capacity to nanotechnology to blockchain networks, they tend to increase exponentially. So yes, it is an interesting time, and you're exactly right. It's not just cryptocurrency, it's everything, right, Fran? It's political systems, monetary systems, it's the world in general. We're speeding up and we're going exponential.
Yeah, Ray Kurzweil's got some pretty interesting theories. I've read a lot of his work. I also like Peter Diamandis. There's a little cleaner explanation on exponential growth, the 6 Ds of exponential technology growth, where new technologies come out And the very first thing they do is they digitize something that is currently analog. So in Bitcoin's case, it's digitized digital gold, and the next D is deceptive. 3D printing took 35 years to actually come out of idea to disruption. It wasn't until they had minimal viable infrastructure that disruption can take place. We're seeing the same thing in the field of cryptocurrencies. We need that minimal viable infrastructure, which is arguably coming to market now. All of those billions invested in 2015, 16, 17, 18, everything's coming out of the lab into the wild. So I believe this asset class and industry is just on the cusp of exiting that deceptive stage and entering into that truly disruptive stage.
Okay, Fran, so if, as you say, the infrastructure has been laid out, and I think that's what Brave New Coin have been doing for the last few years, let's start to talk about BNC Pro then. What is the problem that BNC provides a solution to?
It's fairly simple. The industry currently has a very disparate set of tools scattered across the internet. Right, so there's 500 websites you can get the price of Bitcoin. There's a whole bunch of websites and companies where you can get research. There's different companies for news. There's different companies and websites for blockchain analytics. And so we've been building out our technology to absorb, capture, and clean an ever-growing amount of data. And realizing how disparate the workflow is, we've decided to put together a all-in-one platform that allows a multitude of different types of users, from treasury management, compliance, through to traders, through to portfolio managers, asset managers, etc., to give them the tools that they need without having to go and have multiple accounts and multiple websites on places.
So let's talk some of the features. What are some of the features that BNC Pro will launch with? And I think the launch date is currently scheduled for Q4 this year.
We packed out the beta near instantly when we opened it, and it's been an incredibly positive response so far. Everybody's asking when they can actually use this full force. So that's a good question to be asked. And the main feedback is, can we have this feature? Can we have that feature? Our testers are conceiving things that even we haven't thought of. So that's quite exciting. In terms of launch time and feature set, so we're essentially taking the years of data that we have and bringing forward applications that leverage our existing data first. So that is portfolio management. Who better to build a portfolio tool than a market data business in the first place, right? So we'll have a portfolio tool that integrates to a multitude of exchanges and has a hopefully rich reporting feature set. We'll have an aggregate news solution. So that's not just our content, but tens of thousands of headlines from all across the world. So you can do things like quickly look for all positive news on Dogecoin or all negative news on Ripple or whatever it is that you're tracking or is in your portfolio. And then we'll have a tracking tool, which allows you to essentially look at different assets and overlay them against each other and find out information about a particular asset. We simply call that a screener, as that's what the real world's kind of used to terming it. And then we'll have a alerts and notifications section. Now, everything I mentioned is interconnected. So you've got a framework where you create an account and then you activate the applications that are contextually relevant to you. And so if you have a portfolio tool and you want to overlay your portfolio against news, you can see what news has affected your particular portfolio over time. And you can get alerts on news that trigger in your portfolio and so on and so forth. But you don't have to activate everything. So they connect as you activate different features. Now, this is all really basic stuff, right? The really sexy feature set has been scoped out and being built at the moment, and that's going to be released in Q1 and Q2. It's a very aggressive roadmap.
Talk to me about that then, Fran. There's a good piece which is up on Medium, which we'll point to in the show notes, and you talk about the 2020 roadmap being particularly exciting and aggressive. What's coming up on the roadmap?
We have a huge range of partners that we've attracted over the years to distribute price discovery indices too. Some of those partners have technology that integrated into our systems would take the platform to the next level. And the ultimate goal of the platform is to be able to execute through the platform. You don't just quantify and report upon post-tense items, stuff you've already done, but you can actually buy things and sell things and execute orders through the platform.
Wow.
One thing that's very clear is we need to move this platform to an end game state that doesn't just let a user or organization manage their activity in this asset class, but to be able to execute and do something with their assets in this asset class. A conventional terminal-like product will connect to various brokers. It'll have order management and execution software baked in so that you can get, bids and asks from various quotes from various assets from various channels. So, of course, that is being prioritized by our team at the moment. In the context of cryptocurrencies, where you can have decentralized autonomous organizations, where you can have customizable micro ETFs, where you can have various insurance contracts administrated on-chain. You can program money, right?
Any kind of exotic financial instrument that you can imagine is essentially, we can create that now, right?
Well, we're very carefully watching the DeFi space, and again, that's an area that needs minimal viable infrastructure on its own.
Is it DeFi or DeFi? I like the way you say DeFi.
DeFi sounds too Wi-Fi. Well, for me anyway, but
For sure. DeFi.
So I've been watching the DeFi space for some time now, and it is finally showing signs of life, that minimal viable infrastructure. And what's very clear is that, again, back to my comment earlier, where this is going to be a world between perpetuating the status quo versus unstoppable decentralized things. Now, some of those things are financial instruments. So the big question for us is, how can we offer financial instruments or decentralized financial solutions in a compliant way? And so that's the sweet spot. We believe that we could offer our users the ability to interact with decentralized financial products through their accounts on our platform.
Fantastic. It sounds very exciting. Let's go to a quick break now, and then when we come back, we will talk about the BNC token.
The brave new coin initial exchange offering is here. Having led the way with institutional-grade digital asset data, research, analysis, and portfolio management since 2014, the BNC IEO is live on liquid.com from October 18th. Unleash the power of BNC Pro. Research, chart, screen, analyze, and report, all on a single platform, unlocked with the BNC token. No monthly fees and optimized for micro-transactions. A trusted team, working solutions, and real utility. The brave new coin IEO launches October 18th. Get verified, be ready, pre-register today at liquid.com.
Okay, and we're back. Fran, let's talk about the BNC token. Why is there a BNC token, and how does the token relate to the BNC Pro platform?
Sure. So been watching this space for a long time. As you know, we've been involved for years and years, and we've seen the rise of ICOs and IEOs, everything in between. So we specifically chose not to do an ICO during the 2017 bubble. We couldn't think of an ethical reason to do so. It was easy money, and a lot of people were asking us when BNC coin. There was no point to it at the time. As the industry matured, we realized that software as a service, i.e. billing on a monthly basis for a set functionality, should be on its way out with the advent of microtransactions. And so without overcomplicating the solution, we basically just created a digital software license. So this is synonymous to Amazon's daily usage units, where if you spool up an EC2 or have an elastic loader, or it's like an a la carte menu, you might be consuming 25 DAU a day, depending on your usage. And so at the end of the month, that's what you get billed for. It's bringing that billing down to a more granular level. How do we bill on a consumption basis? So if you want a portfolio tool, that's great, but why pay $50 a month or whatever price point and only use it 1 or 2 days a week? Why not be able to bill for those 1 or 2 days a week or month that you do consume it? So what we realized is that we can achieve a much more attractive consumption-based billing model with a digital software license. But I also need to talk about another concept, which will round off why we chose to do that. A trend that we've been observing is the melding of the public markets, speculators, marketing, and consumers. And so back in the old voice over internet days, or as that area was emerging, you had black minutes and white flexi plans and mobile and set cost plans. And then all of a sudden came Skype, and the minutes didn't belong to AT&T or Verizon. They were kind of out there in the ether. And so they were called purple minutes. So we've been exploring the concept of purple utilities. It's a software license on the platform, and that's now been validated by our regulators, which is actually a world's first. And it only is deemed a cryptocurrency when it is off the platform, on exchanges and cold wallets, anywhere other than our platform. And so that means we don't have to KYC people using the software. It would be pretty ridiculous to be asked for a selfie with your passport when you buy Microsoft Office licenses. And so we felt the same way. We'll only KYC people when they want to withdraw their tokens from the platform. So what that allows us to do is to honor all tokens at an agreed rate when consuming them for products or services. And so we've said, it doesn't matter what price you get your hands on these tokens for, we'll always honor them for $1 when activating products and services, or the higher of $1 and whatever the market price is.
Yeah, look, it's such a good idea, Fran. So BNC Pro, it's a crypto portfolio platform. It's free to use, but it has some extremely powerful premium features. These are unlocked by using the BNC token. You simply pay a microtransaction for, whatever the particular feature that you want to use is. So whether you're a retail trader, right up to enterprise use, the platform can be scaled up or down to meet your individual needs, and you only unlock the individual features that you actually want to use, right?
Yeah, it's basically a software license. You can sign up without registering your credit card. You can use quite a number of features for free. And then if you want some of the more advanced tools, you unlock those and you're billed when you consume them with the BNC license. Now, just keep in mind that we're not building this in a way that's going to scare enterprise users. Enterprise will have an option to simply not require the token at all. So the company will take those proceeds and simply buy the tokens off the market and park them in our redeemed token or licenses wallets.
Sure.
So we want to make sure we don't, ostracize those that just simply do not wish to use some token.
Talk to me about the process of building this product, Fran, because I know the product team, you've been all over this for the last 18 months, 2 years or so. Building a product like this, it's never an easy journey. So I'd like to hear some of the challenges, some of the highlights, some of the sleepless nights. Where are the pain points? What's the process been like?
One of the big challenges is simply the talent pool. Luckily, we have obviously blockchain labs for the smart contract auditing and design frameworks, payment mechanics, all the rest. We also had to find our own development team and scale that in-house. We made sure to in-house this as soon as possible, and we've been building out a pretty remarkable team that's just worked out wonderfully to date.
That's right. And look, it is a challenge. You've got to get the UI right, the UX right. The token has to work seamlessly. It has to reduce friction, not add it. And look, it all seems to be coming together really, really nicely. So we've talked about the BNC Pro platform. We've talked about the BNC token, which has utility as the payment mechanism in the BNC Pro ecosystem. We're going to talk about Sci-fi very soon, but first let's talk about the BNC IEO, the initial exchange offering, which has been conducted at the Japanese Liquid Exchange. The IEO public sale kicks off November 4. Talk to me about the IEO, Fran.
So look, the industry uses the term initial exchange offer. I like to view this as an initial product offer, IPO. And it's a bit of tongue-in-cheek to the old world, right? We're launching a platform. Instead of saying, hey world, give us millions of dollars and maybe we'll build something in a few years' time, we've capitalized through seed investment and revenues over the years, built the platform. We're launching it in Q4, and we essentially want to give interested users the ability to get their hands on the software at a discount. It's basically that simple. So Users will be able to get their hands on the software license via Liquid Exchange over a couple of tranches, and they'll be able to deposit them onto BNC Pro as soon as their platform is live and start activating premium features and services. We're simply holding them as we roll out more, or if they want to speculate about network effects and game theory, they can choose to do so as well. We are purely viewing this as a software license. It's our job and a natural alignment of incentives to build more and more utility. You can imagine that our entire company now is purely incentivized to build more utility as fast as possible. So I like to think of this as taking the product public as opposed to the company, because ultimately we'll start with 30% circulating supply, and over time, probably a 5-year period, as we get lots of what we call redemptions, people activating that software, we'll hopefully end up with 100% circulating supply. That's never been done before, floating a product or even conceived before. So we're quite excited about the whole event.
So look, if you are interested in learning more about BNC Pro or about the BNC IEO, go to liquid.com/BNC. They have all the details there. There's a video, there's links to the white paper, all that good stuff. And finally, on the IEO, Fran, what would be your 30-second elevator pitch if you wanted to direct someone to the IEO? What would you say?
We're one of the first companies that we know of to have actually built a platform before considering tokenization. And it's being released in its first iteration, Q4. We're making the software license required to use the platform available at a discount for IEO participants. So it's that simple. Get your hands on cheap software that will grow in utility rapidly over time during the IEO phase.
So there you have it, folks. Liquid.com/BNC for all the IEO details. We'll put all the links in the show notes. And hey, look, it is an exciting time. Now, Fran, let's talk science fiction. You're a science fiction guy. Science fiction is the literature of ideas. It's about world building, creating new worlds, trying out all of the possible futures that are available to us, both good or bad, utopian or dystopian. Fran, what is the appeal of science fiction?
There's only so much business books you can read. I can't personally consume immense amounts of thought leadership material, business books. I like to use my reading time for stimulating ideas. And there's nothing better than sci-fi, space operas, whatever, because these are ideas that have unlimited capacity and give us a glimpse into what's possible in the future. So I'm a huge fan of Star Trek, simply because they invented so much stuff before it existed. Right? The tricorder is basically the first iteration of a cell phone. You see them walking around with what looks like an iPad 15 years before those were even conceived. Touch screens, people kind of forget about that.
Yes, indeed, you're bang on. And not to give away too many in-house Brave New Coin secrets, but here in the BNC offices, all of the meeting rooms are named after Star Trek. Right now, we're sitting in the holodeck. Next to us is the bridge. There's the James T. Kirk. One of the cool things about Star Trek is that it was quite progressive. It presented these morality plays that Gene Roddenberry kind of passed commentary on the cultural issues of the day, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, he put forward really big ideas, existential ideas about human nature, about social order, about, value systems. And they were presented and contextualized through, fantasy in the far distant future. So they were relatable and palatable to the mass audience. And I think, Gene Roddenberry did a great thing for society by finding a medium where he could seed these ideas to be talked about more openly. It gives us a glimpse of the future of what society could look like, technologically enabled. It's essentially intellectually stimulating, it's an escape at the same time, and it allows you to have your mind wander. So I've often thought about work while reading sci-fi. Just eliminating the word not possible, or the words not possible from my vocabulary. So like, what if we did this? What if we did that? And just really pushing the limits of what's possible with the use of technology.
Exactly right. So Star Trek was about showing where humanity might evolve to if we can try and learn from the lessons of the past, try and get beyond violence. An example was the Vulcans. The Vulcans had an extremely violent, warlike past, but, they were able to get beyond that. And, so Star Trek was able to kind of depict this united federation of planets as, I guess, an optimistic version of the United Nations. Look, hey, I want to talk power ranking, Fran. If you were to power rank the different Star Trek shows.
Well, I guess Enterprise has to be the best one to date, if that's what you're asking, followed by Voyager. And of course, I love the entire Stargate series, and don't get me wrong, I don't dismiss Star Wars. It's obviously just tailored to a different audience and a different backdrop.
Because this is essentially the official Brave New Coin science fiction episode of the Crypto Conversation, Fran, I think Brave New Coin is a riff on Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. And I've always been fascinated by this idea, and it's not my idea. A lot of people talk about this idea, but the compare and contrast between Huxley's Brave New World and George Orwell's 1984. So I want to just read something to you and then see if you can comment on that in a specifically crypto blockchain context in terms of where the world is heading. George Orwell feared those who would ban books, whereas Huxley feared that there would be no reason to ban a book because no one would want to read a book. George Orwell feared those who would deprive us of information, whereas Huxley feared that people would be given so much information they wouldn't be able to process it. Orwell feared that the truth would be hidden from us. Huxley feared that the truth would be drowned in a sea of irrelevance. Orwell feared we would become a captive culture. Huxley feared we would become a trivial culture. So in 1984, people are controlled by inflicting pain, whereas in Brave New World, they are controlled by inflicting pleasure. So, these two books, and they're both, very famous works of literature, they present two possible opposite dystopian futures, and I think there's examples of both in the world today. Where do you think we're heading, and how does crypto enable, help, or stop these different possible dystopian futures?
1984 was not supposed to be a blueprint or an instruction manual, and we're kind of seeing it play out into reality. He'd be rolling around in his grave if he saw the current surveillance state that we're in. I mean, the two authors had opposing ideologies or lines to different ways of thinking, but they were both trying to essentially express their worry about their future, of how society could end up in one flavor of dystopia or another, just by observing the macro trends and the consolidation of wealth and power and the global decision making and the world order. Right? So yes, Brave New Coin is a play on words of Brave New World. I actually wanted to call the BNC Pro platform Soma, the substance that keeps everybody happy in the book.
Nice.
But it just had too many negative connotations. So look, I try and seed a little bit of memetics into everything that we do because I believe that ideas are able to spread virally. And an idea whose time has come becomes unstoppable. So money is an idea. Religion is an idea or a construct that lives within many people's minds, right? The only reason this dollar note has any value is because everybody believes that there's value and you can exchange it for goods and services. So it perpetuates itself. The only way to kill an idea is either to have absolutely everybody to stop paying attention and forget that idea, which is very difficult, or to augment that idea and transmute it into something else. And that's largely what cryptocurrencies is doing. It's giving us a glimpse that the idea of money can be different. And so it's starting to augment our idea, our collective understanding of value.
I love that, Fran. It reminds me, I talked to Mark Yusko about this idea. One of his favourite quotes is by Lord Keynes, and the quote is, "Words ought to be a little wild, for they are the assault of thoughts on the unthinking." And again, it speaks to the inherent power of new ideas, and that's just how they get seeded.
Well, words are powerful, and naming things is part of that. There's nothing closer to real magic than a wordsmith being able to change an entire audience. Look at some of the largest best recognized speeches. Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream." These words change society. And the reason it's called spelling is because you're casting a spell. You're changing a collective's mind.
So good. And even, I would argue in today's world, code is speech. And as Satoshi said he was better at code than words. But again, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talk about Bitcoin being a form of free speech. And you hear that a lot because it's an unstoppable, decentralized way to transmit value. Andreas Antonopoulos, when we had him over for our conference in 2014, he had a remarkable kind of analogy. And that was, you could essentially create a series of emojis and transmit via social media 100 Bitcoin or whatever you want, as long as you had a way to decrypt that at the other ends. So if you extrapolate cryptocurrencies, think about them as an idea transmitted through a decentralized medium. They're unstoppable. And, there's no possible physical way to ban them. There's only the ability to change everybody's mind to make them think that this is a bad idea. I think you've got the entire 2013 through to 2016 episode where the narrative globally was Bitcoin bad, blockchain good. And then that spun around in 2017 and the banks started issuing their own cryptocurrencies. This has been the most entertaining thing to be part of that I've ever been involved with.
100%. I couldn't agree more, Fran. When people say to me, "Andy, why are you into crypto? It seems so dull and boring." And I say, no, crypto is the single greatest show on earth.
Yeah, I like to describe it as one day in crypto is like a month on the NASDAQ. It's just exponential and everything's on 10x speed.
I had a really interesting conversation with Jake Joachim Pyatt, who is the head of Decred, and he was around, obviously, in the early days of Bitcoin, as I think were you, Fran. But he reckons the Satoshi team, he refers to it as a team of 3 people. And, what I found interesting about the origin story of Bitcoin, Monero, and Decred, which are 3 of the most interesting and most respected proof-of-work cryptocurrencies, is they all had quite a strange background in which the developers who created them are all anonymous. Is there a way to link that? What's your conspiracy theory idea on Satoshi or the origins of Bitcoin, or what's your take?
Oh, look, I think people are worried, and for a good reason, what foresight to choose to be anonymous that early on? Because, there's a guy called Jaguar, who's the head developer at NEM. A lot of these blockchains chose to be anonymous because of concerns about their personal situation. It's not that they're like political activists or politically sensitive individuals. It's just simply that they know that they're creating technology that will rub against the financial status quo. So that's a big concern. But I think if Satoshi is one person or 3 people, I personally believe it is a small group. I think 1 or 2 people had more to do with the core white paper. Could you picture, you're a cryptographer, you're tinkering away on an idea, and then you reach out to somebody else in your field, and it's like, hey, what do you think of this? I'm writing a white paper. And by the time you release it and it turns into something valuable years later, it's very hard to know who was the one person that conceived this. And at this point, it really doesn't matter.
That's a good place to pause for a quick break. When we come back, Fran, we're going to finish with the crypto conversation hot take round.
Crypto, the asset class that doesn't sleep. The markets move quickly with profits made and lost around the clock. It's a whirlwind and you've got to keep up. You need enhanced tools that deliver timely data and accurate analytics so you can make informed decisions. You need BNC Pro, a customizable, institutional-grade suite of applications to help you manage your crypto investments all in one place. Get accurate market data, track your trades or custom holdings, and see profit and loss at a glance. Monitor any asset, trading pair, or exchange using Brave New Coin's trusted market data. Integrate BNC Newsfeed and filter it to deliver only the news that matters to you. Never miss an opportunity, save time, and make better informed decisions. Finally, the all-in-one terminal experience you need to master this brave new asset class. BNC Pro, launching Q4 2019. Join the waitlist today at bravenewcoin.com.
Okay, Fran, as you know, I like to finish each Crypto Conversation podcast with a round of crypto hot takes. Are you up for it?
Let's do this.
All right. I want your hot takes, your hot fire. Fran, take your best shot. Here we go. Where do you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-coin opportunist spectrum?
I am agnostic. I believe that there is a ton of features in coins out there that will just simply be folded into Bitcoin as it is able to scale. But I find it difficult to believe that we will just simply end up with one chain forever. I think just like we're seeing, any other industry from home appliances to internet technologies to car manufacturing, you're going to have different chains for different verticals. Some for remittance, some for this, some for that, so on and so forth.
Hey, it does make sense. Hard to argue with that. Fran, what would you say is your firmest conviction crypto opinion?
That nothing is going to be done until we have sufficient infrastructure. And by nothing done, I mean true mass adoption. We won't get true mass adoption until we have minimal viable infrastructure.
Fran, Facebook's LibreCoin, good or bad for the crypto ecosystem, and why?
Good for now, unknown for the future. Good for the reason that it has suddenly told millions, tens of millions of users globally that crypto exists in the first place. It's been the best possible PR out there. Possibly bad in the future because it is the first sign that corporations are so big that they can actually challenge entire sovereign states, i.e., you know what, we're going to create our own central bank as a corporation. That is a dangerous concept.
Yes, it is. Fran, UBI, Universal Basic Income, as a potential fix for AI-induced automation. Is this a good idea?
Only if implemented at the right time and the right way, not in its current states of both the world today or the designs of basic income as proposed thus far.
Okay. Bill Gates famously said we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in 2 years and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. What does the blockchain space look like in 10 years?
That's a really good question, and I like to think about where this technology interacts with other technologies. And it's the unexpected consequences that give you a hint towards where macro trends are going to lead to. As an example of that, we're obviously getting driverless cars. I see no reason why cryptocurrencies wouldn't be integrated into those so that you can essentially, be driven to your destination, meet up with friends, go for a few drinks, and then lease out your car to earn you money while you're out and about.
Yeah, or you're coming up to a busy intersection. If you're not in a hurry, a driver who is in a hurry, their car pays you a little micro transaction for them to go first.
Yeah, so these are the kind of assumed things. The unassumed things, especially the more negative ones, are the ones that concern me. And I don't think people really appreciate decentralized finance's end game state. We're going to end up with futures, swaps, derivatives, all sorts of instruments that are absolutely, totally unstoppable. And that will usher in a parallel and alternative financial market. And we don't know what shape that will be, but it won't be regulated.
It sure is an exciting time to be alive. When you put it like that, Fran, it almost makes this next question sound redundant. But William Gibson said, the future is here, it's just not evenly distributed. What's an example of the future being here right now, but most people just aren't aware of it yet?
Decentralized finance is a good point. You need a populace that has quality internet, smartphones, saturated to 100% of the population. You're not going to end up having, some asset swapped, a goat for bread via a blockchain somewhere in Africa. So I totally believe in that quote because the future is unevenly distributed. Blockchain technology will transform lesser developed nations in the sense that their problems with billing, payments, and banking are so big that they'll leapfrog what's currently available on the market and be some of the first adopters because their problems are so big of the products coming out of the blockchain space. Not many people know that the banks in the Pacific Islands have to physically freight pallets of cash back to the homeland or Australia and New Zealand every month or every quarter because everybody shows up for a holiday with cash because the payment infrastructure is so bad. So these are problems that are unknown and actively looking for solutions. And so I think we're going to find a match between problems and solutions that perhaps starts to evenly distribute the future, so to speak.
Fran, Arthur C. Clarke said any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. What's the first thing that comes to mind?
I think Bitcoin today itself looks like hocus pocus to 99% of the planet. Anytime I say you can make a payment within 20 minutes to the other side of the world and pay cents for a transaction irrespective of what size, most people just don't believe you.
Fran, let's zoom out. What's the long-term future for the human race? Do you see dystopia or utopia?
Well, I think it's inevitable that we advance to a type 1 civilization or something that goes first out into the solar system and beyond. This is a long way out, if that's the timescale that you're asking about.
This is the sci-fi episode after all, so you're talking about Kardashev scale?
Yeah, and I'm talking like a 500-year plus time frame.
Kardashev scale is a method of measuring a civilization's level of technological advancement based on the amount of energy that they're able to utilize. Like the idea is we're moving towards being a type 1 civilization, which is when we could use and store all of the energy available on our home planet Earth. Fascinating idea. Link to that in the show notes, of course.
I don't think we're going to colonize Mars anytime soon. I don't think there's any good reason to.
Come on. Elon Musk is working on it right now, as you know, and there's a very good reason, Fran, because we need a backup. What happens if the worst possible outcome?
I get the backup theory, and I actually subscribe to that, and we can back up in many different ways. But right now there's a lot of focus on, we need a backup, look how bad climate change is. But the reality is that we've got all the technology in the world to deal with our current issues. We have invented bacteria that eat plastics, so that giant pool of plastic in the Atlantic Ocean, there's actually solutions to these things that are starting to work today. We have 3D printing for efficient, cheap, and safe housing. We have the beginnings of nanotechnology, super light, super resilient materials. Material science is utterly underrated at this time. I think we can get off the planet using a Fred, like a space elevator, once the technology becomes good enough. I don't see a reason to colonize Mars, because what the hell are you going to do there for the next 200 years outside of live in a little bubble? It'll be like an endurance test every single day of your life.
It sure would. It does not sound that fun. Fran, finally, and I think I know the answer. We've kind of already talked about it, but what is your favorite science fiction book, film, or show?
So everybody knows I'm a huge Star Trek nerd, so any Star Trek movie or series is always epic. Gene Roddenberry has built a masterpiece there. But I really like Stephen Baxter and trilogies like the Long Earth series or the Ultima Proxima series.
Nice. Fran, brilliant to have you here. You are the CEO of Brave New Coin, so it was probably time that we had you on the Crypto Conversation. Please, the microphone is yours. Take us out. Tell the people where they can find you on your various platforms. Go for gold.
So you can find me on Twitter @Techimist or LinkedIn, just my full name. I keep a pretty limited social profile. I don't actually use any platforms outside of those two. And of course, Telegram. So I'm pretty easy to get hold of when needed to.
And boom, and we are done. All right. Thank you to Fran for coming on. Thank you to the BNC Pro team for doing the fantastic work that you're doing. I know this has been a very heavy BNC Pro episode, but if you do want to know all the details, please go to bnc-pro.com. And of course, all the IEO details are at liquid.com/BNC. Hope you enjoyed that. This was the Crypto Conversation for Brave New Coin